Welcome to Rebuilding the Beast. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, but at the same time, I also know that it's a very deep topic. But first off, where are you calling from? Where are you at now that we're starting?
Well, I'm calling from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Everybody knows that is the French section. So bonjour à tout le monde, throwing a little French in there for everyone. And yeah, just a little bit, a little bit. You know, I'm multilingual. I'm Russian. I'm half Nigerian. So like.
Oh, so I didn't know that part. So you have Nigerian as
Ah,
well. Yeah,
yes, my family's from Benin, from Edo State.
that's where I grew up. I grew up in a
Oh.
but I grew up in Edo. I went to Ignatian High School in Benin City. So I don't know.
Amazing. I have a lot of family from Usain Village. A lot of them are right by College Road. We're gonna start having that conversation, by College Road, or you pass this. Yeah, trust me.
Oh, that makes me so happy, man. So, how are you doing? How's everything going over there in Canada right now?
We're doing good now. Like we're coming out of our lockdown per se, and we're able to we had curfew. We actually had curfew since the month of January, where we had to be in at a certain time and we couldn't leave until a certain time. And we're slowly coming out of that since Friday. So we're kind of like, okay, we're getting our groove back, and we can, communicate with people, see people, go to the restaurants. So we're getting back to normal life, though.
How ready are you to get back to normal life? Because I don't know what we're trying to go back to, but let's call it getting to a better life than the lockdown right now.
Yes, I'm all for a better life. I'm always for, something positive, something good. We already have so much negativity going on, and I'm always that person that no matter what I'm being faced with, I'm always trying to stay in that positive mindset, positive zone, because I believe that the power of being positive really can create such a shift. So I'm happy to get into a new life. I honestly think it's gonna be better. I think many people will learn a lot from this journey of what we've had to go through.
So, welcome to our podcast, and I'm
Thank
super
you.
story to hear your journey, and thank you for being willing to share as well. Before we get into your story and the more personal questions, can you tell us what you're working on right now? And I know you're keeping busy with a lifestyle brand and as an advocate for mental health.
Well, my career is very vast. I like to do many things. I always say, I'm the Anne of all trades because I love doing many things that keep me happy. I used to model before, so I take a lot of my modeling and I put it into my lifestyle brand. Is because my brand is about me, who I am. That's why I named it USA, because to USA, to be calm, to reflect. So I find it's a part of me. But I'm a mental health advocate. I advocate for mental health, domestic violence. I do a lot of community advocacy work. I work with a lot of shelters for women that are being battered. I do a lot for LGBTQ plus community. So I do donate a lot of my time. A lot of what people see online with my advocacy is one phase of who I am. But I'm always looking to give back to my community in any way that I can. Of course, I keep busy because I'm a mom of four. I have also my youngest son who has verbal apraxia, which is a neurological disorder. So I do a lot, as far as I find that my career is, whatever I choose to do, whatever makes me happy. People are always like, well, what makes you money? I'm like, my brand and speaking, speaking to people and finding ways to encourage people to live their best life. So that's what I do.
Yeah, so Rebuilding the Beast is all about, everybody, people sharing their stories, but I think more importantly, it's about sharing it so other people who are or who have been in the same situation, who are in the same situation, can learn tips on how to survive, how to get better, how to improve their situations. And in this case, I think it's something that I didn't even realize was so rampant. 1 in 3 women experience domestic abuse in their lifetimes. Stalking is part of it. And, I think it's 1 in 6 men as well.
Yep.
So these things that I didn't realize, and it's things that people are going through in our everyday life. 10 million Americans, is it 30 million kids? Something, it's the stats
Yep.
were staggering. I'm looking at it like, wow, this is something that we definitely need to talk about. I would just love to hear about your experience if you don't mind sharing.
Well, like I said, I've been very open about my journey because my journey started with that when people were like, well, how did you become a mental health advocate? Well, it started with the domestic abuse, and living with mental illness. I live with PTSD, generalized anxiety, and manic depression. Now, the PTSD that I live with is a C cluster. It's what veterans get in the military, because of the abuse and the trauma that I endured. So my story started when I was a teenager, and it always, started, boy meets girl. And, I met this guy and he was really fly. He was from New York City, and everything was like, that had the butterflies. I'm like, this guy is so amazing. He treated me really, really well. And we were young, we were very young at the time when we met. We were like, I was turning 16 when we actually met. So, I was just like, this guy's so amazing. I started falling for him, even though my mom was like, you can't date anybody, but, sometimes we don't listen. And I chose to date this young man. And, our relationship carried on. And the abuse didn't start right away. What I didn't realize, it had started at the very beginning. Because I tell people that when you're being abused, it's not all physical. It starts with what I call it's mental warfare. There's a foundation that's being laid in the mind to be able to create that shift, to make you feel insecure, less than, question yourself. So there's a lot of mental abuse that starts first. And that's, in my case, that's what was happening, but I didn't realize that's what was going on. So the very first time that he actually put his hands on me, we were actually out. So we were out. We went out, we were, having a day, and he was just being very strange with me and really aggressive. And, the first time when we went out together is when he became aggressive, as we were out and we were all about, and I turned around to look at something in a store that caught my eye. And he was like, who's that guy you're looking at? Why are you looking at that? And I was like, whoa, I wasn't even that, I'm not about that party. I just wanted to see something that was over there. So I guess somebody in passing, he thought that I was looking at. So that for me should have been my first red flag. So we got home that day, and that was as soon as literally I closed the door, I turned around and he slapped me in the face. And that was the first time he ever put his hands on me, and I was shocked. I was so taken aback that I didn't know what to do, because the person that I had loved so much and I was so young had put his hands on me. So I want you to understand, when I get emotional about it, it's not because I'm sad. It's just that it changed me. It changed who I am for the better, but at the same time, there was a lot of pain. And I want people to understand when they hear my story that I don't want them to feel ashamed for feeling the emotions about what it's like to go through it, because it's hard. So fast forward to a couple of years, and within those years, there was a little bit of abuse. It wasn't, and when I say a little bit, it was abusive, a lot of mental abuse and, grabbing here, pulling there. But where it really got bad was I was pregnant. I was 19 years old. I got pregnant, and I gave him a call and I told him, listen, I'm pregnant. And so what's going on? He immediately, he was happy, but I was very confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do because of all the abuse. I was worried, and found out later on I had reason to worry because the abuse got worse when I was pregnant. He pushed me in a wall, literally left my body mark inside of the wall. He never hit me in my stomach at the time. It was always in my face, my body. I guess he didn't want to do anything to the baby, and we're talking about somebody who's much bigger than me. Like, I'm already tall, I'm 5'11" and a half, but this man was like 6'9", So there's a big difference in height there. And when all of this was happening to me, I was just like, I knew that I had to find a way to get out, but I didn't know how. And everybody always says, it's so easy. Why don't you just leave? But so much of the mental abuse makes it so hard to leave that you just can't, you feel like you can't leave. And I felt stuck. And I literally felt stuck up until I had the baby. He came to the hospital, told me the baby wasn't his. He was, oh, the baby doesn't look like he's mine. He's too light to be my child. And it just turned into this whole thing. Here I'm 19. I just went through 48 hours of labor, intense labor, and you're just being so disrespectful. My family didn't know what to say at that point. And there was a moment where he was coming in and out to visit, or I was going to New York as well to visit him from Montreal. And then there was a moment in time where we just stopped communicating. And I was so happy. I was like, okay, it's over. The abuse is done. I never have to see him again. He's going to be a deadbeat dad. Let me just move on with my life. No, it didn't end there. It was close to my son being about a year old. He decided to reach back out. And he was like, my mom wants to see her first grandchild. I want you to come to New York. And I was like, I don't even want to come there. I don't want to be there. If she wants to come, she come visit me here, or one day I'll visit, but I'm not ready. So he showed up 3 days later, unannounced, at my mom's house with his best friend, drove, because back in the day, you could just drive through the border very easy. And because we're going back, this was like 1998. So, you know, he drove through the border, came to my mom's, and he was like, just come with me. Don't worry, come to New York. Everything's going to be okay. My friend is, and I trusted that particular friend, I really trusted. So I told my mom, I was like, you know what, I'm comfortable. Let me pack a bag and let me go. And that's what I did. I got into the car. My mom was begging me not to go. She thought she was never going to see me again.
I was going to ask what your mom said, or because you said earlier that even in the hospital, he said these things. He said it around family, so people knew.
Yeah, he was open because he did hit me in front of my mother, and my mother was like 5'7", tried to get in between, and you know she pulled him away from me. She called the police. Like there was so many occasions like this. It was so many years of abuse. So many people saw it. So it wasn't even a fact where people were not sure if I was being abused. My family tried to step in. I would try and pacify. Don't worry, he didn't mean it. It was my fault. Because the mental abuse was he made me feel that everything I did was wrong, everything was my fault, that because he did it was because of me doing something, you know, me looking in this direction. I must have been looking at that guy, me not paying attention to something or paying attention to him. I was always in the wrong, so I was always defending him because he put it in my head that, you know, he does these things or he did those things because he loved me. So, you know, when you're young, it's very easy to be preconditioned. So my mom was always trying to find a way to keep us apart. And it didn't matter how many times she called the police or I called the police on him. He was released on bail 2, 3 days later, and or even a couple of hours later. And he just kept coming back. Like he wouldn't leave me alone.
What was the police's role in this whole thing? Because they released him 2 days later, but then with there's no restraining orders or anything of that nature.
He broke restraining orders. Like we've had the issues, and unfortunately, recently, even in Canada, we've been talking about what's been going on with domestic violence. That now our government is starting to create change. Unfortunately, after 10 women died, they're starting to create change due to domestic violence. But this has been an ongoing thing where women call the police or somebody will call the police and men get released because the judicial system, the laws are not put in place to be able to do much. There's not enough unless, you know, the abuser kills the person or almost kills the person. That's when, you know, you're left in jail for a little bit longer. And that's the reality of a lot of domestic abuse, whether you're a woman being abused or whether you're a man being abused. This is the reality of domestic abuse. Unless something really bad happens, this is the reality.
So, wow, that's very. I mean, I'm disappointed in the system for that, because you need a system in place to protect you. But that's also why we're here, because with your voice platform and the things that we're doing, we're trying to bring awareness to this and hopefully make a change. That's the point of this. What obstacles did you face? Because you talked about, you know, wanting to leave, and what obstacles did you face as you were trying to get out, or what obstacles do women face? I'm sure that you've spoken to other women about this as well.
Well, it's judgment. You know, you get judged a lot by your friends, the people in your inner circle. You're always getting there's you should have left, or you could have left, or you know how he's behaving, you should know better, you're not stupid, or you know, you're such a pretty girl, but you know, you're acting like you're so stupid. Like there's always this constant judgment rather than what can I do? How can I help you? There's judgment, you know, even after everything that I went through and where I was going with my point, like when I went in the car with his friend, this is just that what led up to me finally having the courage to leave. It took something so bad for me to leave. And this is because of the judgment that I constantly faced in my life. So it took him luring me to New York with our son in the car, with me going with him. And we got to New York, it was late. Um, his friend lived in, you know, most people know if they've been to New York, those old Victorian style houses that have like multi levels that never end. And he was like, we're going to stay here for the night. We'll go see my mom in the morning. He had me in an attic bedroom that had a little, you know, bathroom. And he left me there for 3 weeks. He abducted me there for 3 weeks with our child. And he abused me for 3 weeks while I was there. He raped me every single day. He threatened to throw my son out of the window. He tried to kill me. And it took that 3 weeks of hell for me to think about how am I going to leave so that I never have to go through this again, because he almost killed our child. And that was my breaking point. And all I was looking for, I was willing to take whatever he was going to do just to be able to leave, to get out. I didn't care. I just wanted to leave. And it was a day that he made a mistake and he covered, there was a phone that was in the room. Like he would leave and come back, leave and come back. And mind you, for 3 weeks, I was breastfeeding still. I wasn't really eating. He would bring me crackers and water. So I had lost a lot of weight. And I just wanted to be able to find a way to leave. And I couldn't until the day that he forgot the phone that was plugged in. And I didn't even call the police. I called my mother first. And she saw the number on the caller ID. And that's what prompted her to call the police on three-way and let them know this is the number, this is what happened to my daughter. And the New York Police Department came and got me out. And they literally banded together to get me out of that house. They paid for my plane ticket with my child to go back to Canada. And I even carry that picture in my wallet with my son and I. So I remember, never go back. Like I took a picture with him in the airport that day when we were going back. And since that day, I never went back.
Even just hearing the story, obviously, like physical assaults, they leave a physical mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
But can't see is the scars from mental abuse. Did you face difficulties? I know you said some of those things earlier, but I want you to go deeper into difficulties in terms of mental health after such a traumatic incident.
Well, after all of that had happened, I was having nightmares and I didn't understand what was going on with me. And I tried to take my own life. And I tried to commit suicide. And I was rushed to the hospital and I had a 5150 hold, which is when they have to keep you for 5 days to assess your mental health status. They kept me to see what was going on and what was wrong. And I spoke to a psychiatrist at the hospital and he realized that I went through so much domestic abuse and so much trauma because the abuse it's very graphic. The abuse that I went through, being kicked down the stairs. I have a permanent crack in my head that goes from my eye into here. Like you can feel it in my skull from my head being bashed into the wall. I was kicked in the stomach. There was a lot of abuse. So with that and being abducted, all of that and the mental abuse, the doctor told me, he's like, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, you have generalized anxiety. At the time, I had panic disorder still, because I don't have panic disorder anymore. I've worked on it for many years, and I was diagnosed with manic depression. So all of that abuse mentally changed me. And that's the reason why I tried to take my life at that time, because I felt that my son would have been better off without a mother that was losing her mind. And I just couldn't deal with the nightmares anymore. The being afraid every day, not being able to sleep out of fear.
I'm so sorry that all this has happened. And to be honest, like it really shows your strength that you've been through something like this and you survived it, and now you are using your voice. I think
Took a long time.
What helped you the most while you were at your darkest point? I can't imagine this was easy, but I'm sure that you have somebody who you thought was your person, and this person ends up being somebody that is so harmful and all these bad things, and not just to you, to your child. That does a lot to someone's ability to even trust the world of like, what is going on here? And in the middle of all this darkness, what helped you get out of it?
My faith. I'm somebody who has a lot of faith. I pray all the time. And my faith really digging deep, because I was in a dark place and, in a very dark place. And I just remember just praying and praying to get out of it alive. I'm just more emotional about it today. Funny enough, I can talk about my story so much today. I'm just more emotional because recently there was a young woman that was murdered in Montreal due to domestic abuse, and I led her march. And for a month after that, I wasn't the same. It's made me more emotional when I even talk about my story, because her story and mine are so similar. Her mother looks like my mother. Her and I almost look exactly alike. Her mother freaked out when she saw me. So it's been making me more emotional because this just happened in March. On March 23rd, she lost her life. And I look at things when we talk about faith, because March 23rd is my father's birthday. And I always look at it like there's always a sign somewhere that I'm meant to do what I'm doing, because it hasn't been an easy road to talk about my journey. And normally I do it. Yeah, I cry a little bit and I let it go. But lately, ever since that day, I realized that me sharing my story is so important, because I wasn't sure if me sharing about mental health issues, if me sharing about domestic abuse, if I was really creating impact. And that day, it forever changed me, because I realized that all the pain that I had endured was for a reason. All the pain that I had suffered, it came to that point where I tell people all the time, I'm like, that day that I was leading that march, I don't even know what took over me. I had a pastor come to me with a Bible, and he's like, that was God, because you were just the strength and you were going. And I believe it, because I felt like I was speaking like almost in tongues. It was just rolling out for an hour. I was marching, and I was leading this march of over 20,000 people. And I was speaking for people to remember this woman's name and look at her family. But it forever changed me. But it's always been my faith, and it will always be my faith that will continue to carry me in these darkest moments of my life.
Good people. And that feeling that you have where you ask the
Mhm.
question of, am I really making a change? Is what I'm doing does it matter? There's a saying that good people have to feel like they're trying to empty the ocean with a spoon, with a ladle. As a good person, you're staring at an ocean full of evil, and you're
Yeah.
saying, man, I just have a spoon. What can I do to make a change here? At some point, I myself had that same feeling of, what kind of change can I possibly make?
Mhm.
But that's not your job to figure out how are you gonna. No, you're supposed to do
Yeah.
your job of what you have, which is your story, your voice.
Yeah.
And at some point, I also realized that as a man with a spoon, that's like, there's so much more. You can recruit other people. And my idea
Mhm.
of change is if you get everybody to pick up their spoon,
Yeah.
right? At some point, there's going to be with a bulldozer, there's going to be, but everybody's going to pick up. We're going to make a dent in this ocean. I bet you we will, and this is the point of this podcast, is the point of this platform, is the point of using your voice. And I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you for what you're doing, the message that you're
Thank
sharing.
you.
I know it's not easy. I know that the trauma and your brain doesn't understand trauma. It
Mhm.
knows that it experienced trauma. And so when
Yeah.
you're reliving, telling the story, you're almost reliving the same scenario. So I understand the tears, I understand
Yeah.
the feeling, but I can definitely, I definitely empathize with the fact that you are experiencing the trauma again. And so I just want to say thank you for using your voice the way that you do, because you are making a difference. You're making a difference for
Thank
somebody to
you.
hear this story and be inspired by what you're sharing and the tips that you're sharing. I want you to tell me more about your faith and the things that helped you. What is it about your faith? How did you dive deeper into it, and how did it help you on your journey as well?
Well, I carry my father passed away in 2014, and I carry his Bible with me, which was my grandfather's Bible. My grandfather was a pastor. So for me, I have that Bible, I look at it, I keep my father's picture in there. I keep also a picture of my son and myself when I was going through all the trauma that I experienced. When I got out of it, out of trying to commit suicide, there's that picture, and you can see it, because you can see that I lost a lot of weight. I didn't look well. I looked very ill. It was always a reminder, because I always wanted to remind myself, no matter how difficult life got, if I was able to survive that, I can survive anything. That God put me here for a reason. For many years, I didn't realize what's my purpose. I wanted to do things. I contribute for the news for mental health. I talk about domestic violence for mental health on the news all the time. And I'm always trying to, spread the message and create change and fight the governments. And I'm always, doing, but I never really truly understood, well, what's my purpose? Until recently, when I really looked at the things that I'm doing, and I'm like, you know what? God literally just told me, this is your purpose. I felt it. Like, I've never been so sure than I've been sure of anything. Like, I know my name, that this is my purpose, is to continue to share my message, to spread my stories, so women and men can look and say, you know what? We need to teach our young boys better, our young men better. We need to raise them better, and we need to educate our girls as well. And we need, I can get out of this. I can do this. I want people to look at me and say, you know what? She went from this to this. Where she is, she's created her own success. She's doing things, and she's still helping the community. Yes, my story is painful. to speak. And lately, more so because of what I experienced recently. But man, my faith has been like my pillar, my strength, and of course, my family. My family is super supportive. All my children, my first son, he's 23, that was his father. And I'm telling you, I have raised such an incredible young man. He's been raised by his grandmother, myself, by women essentially. And I'm so proud of who he's become because I was always worried, what if he's like his father? You know, nothing like him. And I said, you know what? That's a testament to my faith, a testament to God, a testament to the person and the woman that I am and who I've become.
That is actually a good point, because you are a mom of four. How do we ensure that our kids grow up to be loving and they don't become abusers? Are there tips, are there things that you've seen in the way that your mom has been around, in the way that you've shown him love, in the way that, because I also know that that's also part of, sometimes that's part of the history of abusers, is that they were abused when they were younger, and this is the way that they understand love, and so that kind of puts onus on parents as well, and the way that we show them love and the way that we teach them. And so is there something that you found in the way that you teach your kids, of like, since you're aware of this, is there a way that you I don't know, just show them love, or the way that you teach them?
Well, for me, I have three boys and a girl. So, I look at it with what I did differently is there's always that thing, boys can't cry or they shouldn't cry, or, you want to become a strong man, don't show emotions. And sometimes that comes from generational things, how our parents were raised, what men are supposed to be and how women are supposed to be. But I did different. I told my boys that it was okay to show emotion. It was okay if you're angry to be angry, but we need to figure out why you're angry, because we can't just lash out. Expressing emotion. If you feel like crying, you can cry. I'm not going to shame you. Nobody is going to shame you for crying. Allow these emotions to come out, because I realized that even men that I did have the opportunity to speak with who were abusers, who are reformed abusers, I wanted to dig deep into their minds to see what was it? How can we create this change? And it stemmed from not being allowed to express emotions, not understanding anger, not having an outlet to deflect or derail the anger, and feeling shame. This is what makes me a man if I behave this way. So when I raised my kids, I gave them a lot of love. I smother them. Even my older boys are like, Mom, I'm like, no, I don't care if you're taller than me. I'm going to get on the chair. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to give you a hug. So I think it's that love, showing love and removing the shame of this is what a man is supposed to look like. No, a man can be strong, loving, caring, show emotion, and still be a protector.
This is that toxic idea of what we think masculinity is, and that
Yeah.
causes problems. But in this life, I always say, as you know better, you do better. And so we are learning, and as we're sharing this message, I hope that other people are learning as well. And so we can do better as a society, and do our part in stopping this problem of domestic abuse. You shared a signal on your social media, and this is something that helps women notify others that they're suffering domestic violence. Can you explain that? And because I think it's very important for all of us to know this.
Well, it's the Canadian Women's Foundation. They actually was a hand signal, a gesture, because we had the gesture of ordering a pizza, but it was all over social media ordering a pizza. But it's difficult. If let's say you are being abused, and abuser obviously knows he's abusing you, and you're ordering a pizza, he doesn't know if he or she doesn't know if you're actually ordering a pizza or if you're calling the police. But I said this hand gesture is one of the easiest things, because we could be having a conversation like this with you, and when we use social media, we talk. So it's a lot easier. You can be saying, hey, Mom, what's up? How's it going? Everything's good. Well, it's been, I've had a couple down days, but, you don't know. The person is having a conversation. You don't see the hand signal. If the person is in another room, you can carry on a conversation, and that virtual message can save somebody's life. And that's why I shared it, because I wanted people to be aware of it. If they ever saw that somebody was doing that on a FaceTime or a Zoom call or a TikTok or something, that this can potentially save somebody's life, knowing that that person is being abused or is in danger, or even kidnapped, because they did use the signal also for kidnapping as well.
Obviously, we are all experiencing this pandemic right now. I think we talk about how much harder it's making it for women who are currently facing domestic violence. They're stuck indoors with their abuser. What can we do? How do you think the system could change or should change it to make it easier for women currently?
Amazing question, because I've actually been doing a lot in Canada to do that, to create that change. After that march that happened in Montreal, I was really pushing to change, the issues that we have, because our government wasn't paying attention. Like I said, 10 women had died in a matter of 10 weeks due to domestic abuse in my city, not even in Canada, in my own city of Montreal. So I started using my voice and using the fact that I work with the news. I contribute for 6 news stations in Canada, to utilize my platform to push the government to do better. And I was every day, every week on the news talking about what we need to do, what the government needs to do. So we need to recognize, during a pandemic, people are locked up with their abusers. So it makes it like it's a perfect brewing point for somebody to control, manipulate. We need to create more programs and shelters for women to be able to go get help. But shelters, I call stage two, what's called stage two housing, which is not just a shelter, but actually a facility, a housing that a woman can go to, or a man who's being abused, that they can just cut everything off, pack a bag and leave. Because a lot of the time in shelters, women don't want, I was in a shelter before, I didn't want to stay and I left, I went right back to my abuser. And I was also turned away from a shelter before. So we need to understand that there's so much work that needs to be done in understanding domestic abuse, because it's not just a cut and dry situation. There's so many steps that need to be taken to create that change. But it's, more shelters, stage two housing, creating more awareness. Awareness is key, because if you talk about what are the red flags of abuse, a woman or a man can be like, oh, that's what it is. I can get out of this situation. And the most important thing is erasing the shame. Don't make a person feel ashamed if they're telling you that they're being abused and they need help. Don't judge them, just help them.
I think actually this is something that I'm a big advocate for, is the fact that we need to recast domestic abuse survivors of any kind, but domestic abuse survivors, that's what we're talking about right now, as wonderful, lovable people with full futures. That's
Yeah.
that's why I want to talk to you, because I want people to see that there are people out there who are working and are using their stories to make a change, and they've rebuilt themselves and to
Yeah.
be stronger people, and they don't have to be victims for the rest of their lives.
No, I agree with you. You can make that choice of being a victim. I tell people I'm a survivor and I'm a thriver. I'm resilient. I'm strong, and I use my strength to inspire others with my voice, my story. I want to be able to encourage people that you can have a great life. You can have whatever you want to plan in your life. The first step is to be able to leave. But being a victim, that you can choose. I could have stayed in the victim stage of, poor me, this is what I went through. And I did go through that. At the beginning, I was like, I can't believe I went through this. How did I allow myself to go through this? And I put myself down in the shame, and it took so much rebuilding. A lot of people didn't even realize I was going through that, because I'm the person I'm like the life of the party. I'm always being goofy. I make jokes and I like to have fun. But inside of me, I was like in pieces every place that I went to. And nobody knew. I was so ashamed of who I was because of what I allowed to happen. And I want survivors or women, anybody, women or men who are going through abuse, that see this, I want them to understand that you can rebuild your life. You can start from scratch. It's okay. It's all how you build your foundation. If you build your foundation on a swamp, it's going to sink. But understand, you have to go through the help of getting the mental health help, rebuilding your mental health, then getting to your physical health. Because I used to be an athlete, so physical health to me is key. They go hand in hand. I was a track runner. I ran hurdles when I was in high school and in college. So for me, that's where I had to bring myself back to. I realized that I got my mind right. I started working out again. I started running again. I started getting the things that made me whole again. And then for me, it was like writing, journaling, and getting those things that were stuck inside of me out. Because I believe that when you take a pen to paper, it makes it so powerful. And then my affirmations every day, I would remind myself in the mirror, even if I was having a really bad day, I was like, you know what, you're strong, you're a warrior, you're resilient, you're powerful, keep believing in God, keep praying, God has you. These are the things that help me get to where I am.
You are an advocate. First off, you're so strong, and I
Thank
think
you.
for you sharing your story. You're an advocate for body positivity. What is the best tip to gaining self-love that you discovered on your journey?
for me, like I'm gonna be 44 this year, and I'm very open about my age. I'm very proud of my age.
So I had to jump in because no way. I've been trying to listen and pay attention this whole time. You said you got a 22-year-old, 23-year-old?
20, 23, 20-year-old, he's 14 and 6. Yeah.
23-year-old. Yeah, this is Nigerian dreams. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be 44 this year, and I'm very proud of it. This summer I'm coming into that, 44, getting closer to 50. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of who I am. And I think the first thing that helped me really love myself was stop caring what other people think about you.
Oh, say it again.
Stop caring about what people think about you. Stop now.
Yes. No, it's true. It's true. But I think a lot of times we get trapped into this idea that we feel like what people think about us is what we are. Like, you're not even what you think about you. It's like it's the craziest thing that we start getting trapped into these. Like, there's a thing that keeps ringing in my mind. I was listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes, and he said, "I never knew that what people called me would be a prison." And it was this idea that him being a pastor ended up being this prison that confined him. It was like, yo, they started calling me this, so now I had to live up to being a pastor all the time. Now I who's a pastor. No, I am TD Jakes, and this is my ministry. No matter how it comes, whether I'm a pastor or I'm somebody who's doing film, I'm somebody who's writing a book. I have a ministry in a myriad of ways to share my story and to impact people. Be the best you can be, and that's what's going to take care. That's what's going to resonate with people.
I agree with you, and that's what I tell people. Self-love, it's all about not caring what people think, giving yourself praise. Like I give myself praise, even on a day that I'm looking crazy, whatever's going on with me. I'm like, you know what? No, and for women, I don't know how it is for men. I try, pick my friends' minds and ask them. Maybe you can answer that for me. But for women, we're so hard on ourselves because we see what's on social media. So we see all the booty models, we see all of this, we see girls doing all this liposuction, inject this and do that and do this. And to me, I know women that have done that, and I have no shame about plastic surgery. Do whatever you want to do that makes you happy. But what I realize is that a lot of these women are not even happy. Like, I'm proud of my body. If I gain a little weight, lose a little weight, that's actually something I challenge myself all the time. I'm like, okay, you can turn that fat into muscle. Instead of looking, I want to get thinner. I'm like, no, how could you get thicker? Let's do this the right way. Let's eat well. Let's work out. When women are getting down on themselves because they're comparing, that's why I tell women, don't compare yourself. I'm the queen of self-love, not because I'm this raging narcissist. No, because I have my bad days. But I've learned to love myself and the map of my body, whether it's a stretch mark, a scar, a bruise, whatever it is the roadmap to what makes me beautiful and makes me unique from any other woman that's out there. So why wouldn't I praise that? I tell people I'm imperfectly perfect, and that's what makes me beautiful. And that's what shines out to other people. And that's what radiates that and brings that confidence. So yes, somebody actually dubbed me the queen of self-love. So I was like, I will take and keep that crown.
The imperfectly perfect. When you understand that you're like somebody asked me this question yesterday, are you always as positive as you seem? And this is this idea that you feel like if I'm the queen of self-love, it means that I'm just good all the time. No, that's not the idea. The idea is I can talk myself off the ledge. Yeah, I will go and I'll sit on the ledge and I'm mad and I'm angry, but I also understand that that's part of being a human being. Like I'm human. I have bad days. Oh, what's today? Sunday? On Thursday, I was having a terrible day. And I went to my friend's place. And usually during the week, I'm training. And I leave the weekends for socializing. I do the podcast on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I need a day, And so I went on Thursday, the evening, went to visit a friend. I just sat on the couch. I was like, yo, I'm having a shit day. And I just don't want to move right now. Just let me pout. But cool. Sat there, we talked a couple hours, went home after that, went to sleep, woke up the next day. I'm good. But you gotta let you feel it. You can't say I'm positive and then that's not realistic. You can't just be positive all the time. It's not sustainable. You know what I mean?
No.
And you break in the being a person that loves yourself, you have to give your body a break to mourn sometimes and to be sad and to be angry and it's part of it. Like let yourself feel it. And then just understand that these things will pass as well.
Exactly. They always say this too shall pass, but that's toxic positivity. When I see it on social media and people are like, because I'm queen of calling people out too for their stuff. Because I'm like, listen, if I'm gonna call you out. If you're a guru or whatever you call yourself, and you're saying you have to stay positive, positive mindset, positive. I'm like, who in the hell? I start looking around like, are you talking to me? Because you cannot be a happy person because nobody. That's toxic positivity. It's okay to hold space for yourself and say, you know what? Today I'm having a shit day. It's all good. You know what? Tomorrow's gonna be a better day. And like you said, morning. I go through the morning process. Funny, yours was Thursday, mine was Friday, where my day was like, girl, it ain't it, honey. Like today is just that day. Everything was going wrong. Everything was going bad. I went by my pool. I sat down and I was like almost like pouting like one of my kids. Like, okay, let me just let this process happen. And when you allow yourself to process it and understand why this is happening, you realize that okay, it's just a moment. You're human. You had a moment of feeling down. Now you got to get back up. So I feel you because I pull myself off the ledge, talk myself off it, you name it, I do it all the time.
Yes, and I'm really proud of you for doing that, and that's what makes you a beast. I love it. Um, yeah, so for women who are out there who are in the middle of their mess right now, maybe give them like a few tips and steps that they could take to being free, to their freedom, to breaking loose of this. Because there's also a kind of, like you said, they start attacking you mentally first, and so there's a cage they put you in your mind first before they physically are able to keep you, because then like they get to a point where you start running back to the abuser because you're like, oh, I'm good because that's the cage you're in. So
Yeah.
based on your story and your journey, maybe give them a few tips and a few things that you've done that you feel like have worked for you and see work for other people.
Um, for me, it's like if a woman is in a situation, I always tell them leave, run, go away. Because we talk about love and unconditional love. It's yes, love sometimes hurts, but it doesn't hurt in the way where it's gonna um, hurt you physically or mentally to the point that you feel that you are nothing. Love hurts in the sense sometimes we have disappointments, and things happen, but it shouldn't feel like your whole world is reliant on somebody. You're codependent on somebody for everything, for just being existing at this particular moment in your life. Just run. I tell women, if you're in that situation, run, leave, go. Even men, I'm like, if you're in a situation or in a relationship and a woman is making you feel like crap all the time, feel down, you're nothing, you're worthless, that's a form of a beginning stage of an abuse. Run, go in the other direction because it's not going to get any better. The physical abuse will come after that. But if you're rebuilding yourself, it's start small, start in your mind, get that right, go get help, get a psychiatrist, get a psychologist, whatever you feel you are lacking. Acknowledge the fact that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay if you live with mental illness, but go get the help. You don't have to suffer in silence or live in the darkness and feel ashamed. That's why I share my story, because I want people to look at me and say, you know what? She's not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm actually proud of the person that I've become. If it wasn't for what I went through, maybe I wouldn't be this person. I was a very shy child. My mother always said, you were so shy. And I remember those days of who I was. But now I'm the completely opposite. I'm very flamboyant. I'm very in your face. I go after things. I'm not afraid. I'm like, if I can do that, I feel like I can do anything. I'm not afraid. Like, I'll knock on whatever doors, I'll talk to people, I'll walk up to random strangers in the street and talk to them and start a conversation if I see somebody's feeling down. But you have to start with your mind. You need to have faith in something. I know some people don't believe in God, but have faith in something. And if you're going to have faith in yourself, that you have the power within yourself if you dig deep enough, that you can fix it. If you had enough strength to be able to leave a bad situation, that's the hardest part, is leaving. And I'll tell you, from everything that I went through, even the rebuilding was hard, but that first step in leaving and acknowledging that this was no longer serving me and this would never serve me and was no good was the hardest part. Leave. And then find the things. When you start getting your mind right, start getting your body right. For me, I love sports. So for me, it's like just get into something, whether it's dancing, whatever, anything that it is, to find your body again, find who you are again, and find the things that spark joy, whatever it is. Just find whatever sparks joy in your heart, and that's the steps you're taking to rebuilding that new person, because you're never going to be that person again. Don't look back and say, I want to be her or him again. No, start embracing the new person that you're going to be, because you're going to be such a badass. You're going to be so strong, and you are going to have this new opportunity in your life to be the best possible version of yourself.
Gosh, you are incredible.
Thank you.
There's something that you said earlier that actually stuck with me this whole time. I've been processing in my head, is the idea of communicating with people who also were abusers or are abusers. And that's a part of your journey that you've used to understand how to, because you're wanting to communicate with both sides, the people who are the abused and the abusers, to try to stop this ongoing cycle. Now let's speak to men who have been abusers, who are abusers, people who are seeing these traits in themselves. What kind of advice can you give from the people that you've spoken to on the ways to take steps to ridding themselves and of ridding the other people that they see around them of this hatred, is what I could call it?
You know, the reason why I wanted to speak to some men that have gone through, like, that have been abusers, is because of the fact that there's some men that are just, I call it sociopathic. They're violent, you know, they need to be in jail. But there's some men that actually, it's because of either generational trauma, childhood trauma, things that, you know, they don't know how to express their emotions. They get frustrated. So frustration can turn into anger in a lot of people. And the main thing is, I always tell these men is, like, the men that have told me, they said they went to go get help. They acknowledged that there was a problem. They didn't know how to process their anger, that they were scared of their own anger, and they were scared of what they would or could possibly do to someone. So the acknowledgement of that is extremely important, is getting the help to understand and process, why am I feeling that I need to hit somebody or put my hands on somebody to control them? Because that's essentially what it is. It's a form of control. Maybe you feel like, from what I've been told, there was some men that had, you know, lack of control in their lives, in their personal lives, in business, and they felt like, well, I can control this person. So they put fear into them, and they knew it was wrong. A lot of these men said they knew it was wrong, but they still did it anyway. I think that's the main key. And if you're a friend, like, if you see one of your homeboys and you're like, you see something, well, you need to step in, because that behavior, I wish a lot of times in the situation that I was in, that some of his friends would have stepped in. Only one actually ever did step in. They were never friends again, but he actually did do something. He tried to step in and, you know, pacify the situation. Don't allow this behavior. If you sit back and you're watching this happen to someone, you're a party to it too. You know that your boy is doing it. You can't change it, but if you're there seeing it, you can stop it and acknowledge and tell your boy, you know what, sometimes having that conversation with your boy is, it'll hit different than if a therapist tells them. You know, you might be able to get into their mind, into their psyche, but it's acknowledgement that there's a problem, and the man has to want to acknowledge this is an issue and want to go get help for it.
I love the way that you use your voice. I love the way that you are passionate about what you do. It comes from living through the trauma. And man, I am so inspired by you. Where can we find you? What it is, what you said you were working on some stuff. Tell us everything. Tell us all the things.
Well, there's some campaigns I can't talk about yet, but I can't wait to share it. But, you know, that's coming. But I'm working on a book right now, and I'm really excited about it, because it's going to be a very different book. You know, yes, it's a story of my journey, but it's going to be very different. I'm working on my own podcast right now called The Real Svetlana Unplugged.
Say the name again so we can hear it.
The Real Svetlana Unplugged, which is me, because, you know, the unplugged version of me is just going to be having real conversations. You know, the reason why actually I was named The Real Svetlana was from a friend. When I was looking for a handle many years ago, she's like, well, just call yourself The Real Svetlana, because you keep it real. You don't mince your words. You're just real. So I'm like, but anybody can find me, or on The Real Svetlana everywhere, on IG, TikTok. I kept it simple. Even my .com is therealsvetlana.com. You can find anything that's happening over there, because I share a lot on my IG. So you can follow me on IG and get to know what's coming up, what's up and coming, and, you know, follow my journey.
Real Svetlana on
Yes.
IG, TikTok, on everything. Realsvetlana.com.
Yeah, my first name is Russian, but of course, you know, my middle name is Nigerian. All my kids have Nigerian names except my mom was like, you're gonna have a Russian first name.
I like it. My name is Festus. You know, my name
I love it.
is actually after my dad, but it's a name that's in the Bible as well. I don't know. You have to really read your Bible to know where it's at.
Typical Nigeria, Imotinye.
What does that mean? What does Imotinye mean?
Imotinye. Glory of God.
Glory of God. So my Igbo name is Ifeanyi.
Oh, nice.
Ifeanyi
What does that mean?
means nothing is impossible with God.
Nice. I love it.
It's our job to live up to our names. Actually, I don't even think we have to live up to it. I think that the names give you your path, your road.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, after everything is said and done, the bad things that happen, it's all going to be to the glory of God.
Nice. Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for having me on Rebuilding the Beast. I think this is like, I feel like it just went full circle to the things that I do, because I always talk about rebuilding. And thank you so, so much for allowing me to share my journey with your listeners, your followers. And I'm going to give you like a little tidbit. My sons are like your biggest fan. When I told my older son, he was like, okay, oh my God, he went to tell all his friends. I'm like, calm down, relax. But I had to share, my sons are huge fans of yours.
Yo, please tell him I said hello. Hopefully someday, I'm rebuilding my beast as well. And so when I can get back on the court, hopefully you guys can come out and come support and come watch. I'll be able, when I come back to Toronto, when you guys open the borders up again and we're able to come back to Toronto, I would love for you guys to come watch the games.
Oh, that would be our pleasure. They would absolutely enjoy it. I think they'll faint at this point.
I have one final question. This is actually the question I ask everybody, and it's my favorite question. If you could talk to 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old Svetlana, and you could talk to her about life, about the journey, what would you say?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. What I would say, I have to put myself back in the headspace of who she was. So I would say, you know what, Svetlana, first of all, you're a beautiful young woman. You need to have faith in yourself. You need to believe in who you are. You need to believe in where you're going. Stop worrying about everything. Stop being afraid of being, stop being afraid of being yourself. Stop, always holding things in and being so shy. Step into your purpose. Trust yourself. Trust the process of your life. But the first and foremost is believe in yourself, because I think that was the key for me. Was I didn't believe in myself, and I was allowing other people to tell me who I was, and I started becoming that person. So I would tell little Svetlana, believe in yourself and have patience, and great things will come.